if you play with the fear of failure as an athlete, you're going to hold yourself back. And so in this episode, I'm going to share with you an exercise that you can go through to work on reducing the fear you have when you play. Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, a mental performance coach who works with athletes from around the world on improving their mental game. The fear of failure is one of the most common mental game challenges that I help athletes work through because it's probably one of the most common challenges that we face as athletes. Because whether it's a big game, a small game, just a normal game, a tryout, or even a practice, there are things that we are afraid of, mistakes that we don't want to make, and ultimately consequences that we want to avoid. And it's in those consequences where we see this fear really focused. For example, I'm working with a hockey player right now, and one of the fears that he has is underperforming and then having his parents mad at him or disappointed in him. Now for them, they're not disappointed in him or upset with him because of the way he played based on the result or the outcome. It's not about how many goals he scores or how many assists he gets. It's about the effort he puts in. But even though it's about effort, simply thinking about his parents potentially being mad at him causes this hockey player to overthink and ultimately hold himself back. And that is a common characteristic of anybody experiencing fear when they play. You will hold yourself back, play timid, play scared. Another example is a catcher I'm currently working with, and he's been scared to make a bad throw back to the pitcher, and this has resulted in him making poor throws back to the pitcher because, again, when you are scared, you become anxious. This increases tension, and then that tension causes a problem with mechanics, and that's where we'll typically see the performance problem occur. And so the exercise that I've run both of them through, along with all the other players that I work with, is the exercise that I'm about to show you. And this exercise focuses primarily on how can we handle the consequences of the fear. Because it's never the fear, it's never the mistake itself, right, that we're actually afraid of. So for example, going back to the hockey player, he's not scared of performing poorly, right? He's not scared of making a bad pass, turning the puck over, letting somebody get by him when he's trying to defend them. That's not what he's scared of. He's scared of what will happen if he does those things, or if he fails to do what he's supposed to do. So in other words, he's scared of the consequence. Just like the baseball player, he's not scared of the act of making a bad throw. He's scared of not making it onto a D1 team, because that's his goal. He's scared of losing his starting position. He's scared of his coach yelling at him. No matter where we look when it comes to fear, yes, we don't want to have these things happen, but where the fear is primarily focused is on the consequence of whatever it is that we are afraid of. So we're truthfully afraid of that consequence. And so what we can do if we want to work on reducing the fear we have in relation to that consequence is we can go ahead and imagine, so this exercise is a mental exercise. We can go ahead and imagine what is that consequence, and then most importantly, how am I going to handle that consequence? So the way this exercise works is that you list out all the situations in which you are afraid to fail. So for example, I might say that I'm afraid to make a bad throw back to the pitcher. And then I would say, what's the consequence? Or then you're going to say, what's the consequence that I'm really afraid of? So in my example, I'm afraid of throwing the ball badly back to the pitcher. The consequence is I'm afraid of getting benched. And then the third part, and the most important part, is I would ask myself the question, how will I handle that? Not how will I avoid that, not how do I make sure it never happens, but how will I handle it? And then I might say that I would handle it by working hard in practice, and then when I do get my next opportunity, being calm and relaxed and not trying to put too much pressure on myself. And the most important part of this whole exercise is if I can feel okay with the how I'll handle it part. And when I say feel okay, I don't mean feel happy about, I don't mean be ecstatic about, I don't mean being complacent and saying, well, I'm never going to get back out there on the field. I mean, can I be okay with that? And the reason that it's important for us to get to the point where we say, I'm okay with that in terms of how I'll handle the consequence, is because if I can handle the consequence, and the consequence is what I'm really afraid of, there doesn't need to be as much fear in the first place. And the reason we want to be okay with that consequence, especially okay with it in terms of how we're going to handle it, because the more okay I can be with the potential outcome or the potential consequence, the freer I am in the moment to simply play. And the reason fear of failure holds you back when you play is because when you are afraid, you then become anxious. When you become anxious, you'll either try to avoid the outcome that you don't want to have happen, which typically causes timid play. We see this a lot in soccer and basketball players where they don't try to go go after the ball, get involved, call for the ball as much. Or it can also cause timid play in terms of babying the ball back to the pitcher if you're a catcher or as a hockey player not playing as aggressively. But we can also see the anxiety itself create tension in the moment or create overthinking, both of which inhibit your free and natural play. So when we are okay with the potential consequence because we know that we can handle it, again, not because we're happy about it, not because we want that thing to happen, but because we have confidence in ourselves that we can handle whatever will happen. We free ourselves up to simply play because we don't have to be so scared of the consequence. Because most of the time, the things we are afraid of and the consequences we imagine that could happen, they are bigger in our head and in our mind than they're actually going to be in real life. If I get benched, which, I've been benched before, most athletes I've talked to and worked with, they've been benched at a time or two. It sucks, it's not what you want to have happen, but you're able to bounce back from it. You just practice harder, you work harder, you get back out there, you show coach what you can do, and you win your starting spot back. There's always something that you can do after the outcome that you don't want to have happen happens. But the worst thing is us failing to remember that we can handle the consequence, that we have confidence and trust in ourselves to bounce back. And as a result of that, we allow this fear to completely consume us in the moment, which then ultimately leads to underperforming. So I would really encourage you to go through this exercise on your own. If you're a parent watching, run your athlete through this exercise. And if you're an athlete, run yourself through this exercise where you really think through what are the situations where I'm playing with fear and what is the real consequence I'm afraid of? And can I handle that consequence? And this is a different type of confidence that you need to have in yourself as a player. I talk a lot about having confidence in yourself in terms of the skills that you can play with, right? Confidence in yourself that you can hit the ball, you can make the throw, you can shoot the ball, you can sink a good putt, right? You want to have confidence in that, but you also want to have confidence in your ability to manage your own emotions. And, when we're looking at what causes the fear of failure in sports, a lot of times it's our own reactions to mistakes that causes fear of failure, not because the mistake was so bad, but because we're scared of our own reactions, right? We're scared that when I make a mistake, my confidence drops. Well, that fear goes away when I have more trust and confidence in myself that I can handle the result and handle the consequence. So all of this kind of brings me to a little bit of a bonus exercise that you can do in addition to this one that I just mentioned. And it's a form of negative visualization, and I've mentioned it before within another video in another episode. It's also something I talk to a lot of players about. And it's a strange concept because whenever you think about visualization, most of the time you're going to imagine visualization being you mentally rehearsing yourself playing well, which is, of course, something you need to be doing. But this form of visualization is you imagining these negative outcomes and then visualizing yourself handling them. And we're trying to do the same thing that we do with normal visualization, where we're building confidence in ourselves. But again, you're building confidence in yourself to handle the situation. You're not just mentally rehearsing yourself failing, you're mentally rehearsing yourself bouncing back from failure. And when you have confidence and trust in yourself that no matter the consequence, you can handle it, again, it just allows you to play more freely and naturally in the moment, which is where you're going to find yourself performing up to your potential. So I encourage you to go through this exercise to work on having confidence in yourself to handle the consequence of the mistake that you're afraid of so that you can let go of that fear when you play. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I've put a link to that in the description below, as well as links to the 2 online courses I have available, the Confident Competitor Academy, and then also the Mentally Tough Kid course. And I have 2 books right now on Amazon. One is titled Mind Games. It's a collection of short stories. And the other one is titled Athlete Mental Training, and it's a guidebook for you as an athlete to begin training your mind to improve your performance. If you have any questions about this episode or you would like me to cover any other topic, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.